Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to go over Hut Rivals, a mode that was introduced years ago in Hockey Ultimate Team, and really our main way to play the game online in NHL 24, and you'd have to assume beyond. So, I want to go over the things that I would love to see changed, as well as hear from you guys in the comments section about things and tweaks that they could make to the game, and hey, who knows, maybe we'll get some changes in NHL 25. Let's get into it. Alright, so first up, I think the thing that is going to be universally requested among the player base, and that is simply the reward structure for Hut Rivals. In its current state, you essentially, depending on your skill rating and everything like that, you have to go up against the rest of the player base to hit a certain tier of rewards, which has made the game almost like a job, especially when you get into the higher division. Through the first 6 months of the game, if you're in Division 1, you're playing against opponents that just simply don't lose very often. And because the player base is much smaller, you're going to match up against Division 2 players, and that creates a really skewed reward structure. So, for example, to get max Rivals points in your 50 games total that you have allotted to you, you've essentially got to play all of your Rivals games before you play any Hut Champs. Hut Champs will earn you Rivals rewards, but at about half the rate. So if you play all of your Hut Champs first, you've essentially lost 20 games of the 50 to get max points in Rivals. Why you see the Ultimate Grinders play all 50 of their weekly Rivals games first, and then load into Hut Champs, which is absolutely absurd, but hey, we're hungry for rewards. Now, the first thing I would do, separate Hut Champs and Rivals, meaning that you don't earn Rivals rewards from playing Hut Champs. I think that Hut Champs rewards and that mode itself should always be tailored to the player base that it is really for, and that is the best player. It is where you should find the best players that are looking for the hardest competition each week. They should live in Hut Champs. Now, we have to deal with the major issue, and that is because Division 1 can match up against Division 2, and vice versa, what you have is the top 5% of competition in Division 1 and Ultimate. They play all their 50 games first, and if you don't do that route, so 70 games in a week, you're not going to get the Ultimate rewards, regardless of your record, really. And the same thing goes for Division 2 as well, for the most part. If you don't play your 50 Rivals games first in a week before playing Hut Champs, like, you're just in Division 2. I've had weeks where I've played all my games and really not gotten Ultimate, even if I've gone about, 30 and 20. In my opinion, how the reward structure should work is it should be a static level, meaning that if there is 50 games available to us in a Rivals cycle, if you can win 30 games out of those 50 in the division that you are in, meaning you have hit your plateau, regardless of what your skill rating is. The game mode is designed to make you go 500, meaning that once you've hit your plateau in Rivals, because you're matching against the same skill level, essentially you are eventually going to go about 500 in Rivals, unless you are just one of the better players there are and you're just exceeding all the time in Division 1. So with that being said, if you can get 30 wins out of the 50, you should get the Ultimate rewards. That would do a couple things. Number one, really incentivize wins. And the way that it is set up right now, if I beat one of the best players in the world and I do it 2-1 in overtime, I get less points than if I were to beat a far inferior opponent and not score 5 goals in that game. Major problem, and a big issue that I have with Rivals is there's this weird arbitrary, if you don't score 5 goals, you don't get as many points as if you did and you win. Like, it just makes no sense to me. So the first thing I would do is make it a static win total. 30 wins gets you the Ultimate rewards. You could go 35, but even then again, you're in a mode that is made to make you go 500. So once you get to that skill level that you're supposed to be at, you get the Ultimate rewards. It also will go down. So Diamond would be 25, Platinum would be 20. And the good news about that is if you play your games, you go 20-0, then you're going to get them immediately, right? There would have to be a way to fight tanking your record to fall into lower divisions, because that's really been a major issue in this game, is that Division 1 players, you really don't have a reward for being in Division 1 if you could just go down to Division 2, get Division 2 rewards, and destroy your opponents. So there would have to be a large discrepancy in Division 1 and Division 2 and so forth, so that you don't have to drop divisions and really promote that style of tanking. The first way that that you could do that, especially among the competitive players, would be a record or leaderboard. Something that is drastically missing in this game for years now is a leaderboard, and it really does not impact the lower divisions, I don't think. I don't think a lot of people care about their record in particular, but at the higher end, it means that every game just matters a little bit more. And I think that if you had a leaderboard that was yearly and showed your record, that would really help with the I'm just going to tank my record all the time to drop down into a lower division, because then your record looks worse and that could impact future rewards, something along those lines. It would just help mitigate the tank to the lesser division. I think that the first thing that you would have to do, though, is just really separate the rewards. The higher divisions, you just get better rewards. It urges you to continue to increase in skill. You don't want to remain static, but for the players that can't do that, you're more casual. You're matching up against players of the same skill level. You don't have to play 50 games, and maybe sometimes you do, but again, you're going up against the players of your same skill level. Here's one of the bigger changes I would make, and that would be to make it 2 weeks long and to coincide with whatever event is currently going on. So something that you would have to offer to players to mitigate the Division 1 having far better rewards than Division 2 and 3 and so forth would be to offer players rewards that match the event that is going on. So let's say the Hut Headliners event, that was the launch event of NHL 22. You could have win rewards like the tiered rewards that we got this year, where if you win X amount of games in a row, you can get the tier rewards throughout, and they increase depending on what division you're in. Now imagine, let's say you're in Division 5. How it would work is you get to Tier 3 and you win X amount of games, or you can do it quicker by winning games in a row, and you would get the base Master Set player item of your choice. You get a choice pack, let's say it's 82 overall, and then you've got to pay to upgrade. If you're in Division 5, you get an 83. If you're in Division 4, you get an 84, and so forth into Division 1, that if you get these win streak rewards, you can get a Master Set player item, or something along the lines of a reward that is guaranteed and tied into the event, and make it a choice pack, so we're not just seeing the same cards being selected. You can mix and match, and if you have a lot of right-handed defensemen, you go with the left-handed defenseman, those kinds of things. It would really spice up the win streak rewards, and again, make it so that wins matter. The biggest issue I have with Rivals is that it's just chores, because even if you win and you beat a very good opponent, it really doesn't matter, because if you were to beat someone that's way worse and you score 5 goals, you get far more points. So there needs to be a more emphasis on winning in this game when it comes to Rivals. And again, if you are not someone who is a skilled player, whatever division you're in, the mode is designed to make you go 500. Eventually, you will find your skill level and somewhere around the player base that competes at the same level you do, and then again, you get those rewards. I think also tying it into the event that's going on, making it 2 weeks long, allows you to play those 50 games at a much better pace. Now, this is going to have to come with EA making a new mode for the game, which is something we can talk about entirely in another video, because if they don't do that, you're going to get the grinders and the people that play the game relentlessly and can get 50 games done in a week. You're going to have way more time available because, well, you burned through your 50 games in the first week. You've got nothing else to play. So you would need another mode that is more passive that you can do all over again. The most recommended one would be like Draft Champs, where you draft a team and you have to go on a certain run, those kinds of things. But whatever the mode is, I don't care. It would just, you would have to add something else in if you were to make it 2 weeks long. But again, I think that would mean you don't have to rush your game. You can play at your own pace. You get your 50 games in. Every win matters. And once you get to 35 wins or 30 wins, whatever the ultimate tier reward is, you can stop. And if you don't want to stop and you want to keep playing, you can work towards a leaderboard structure to improve your rank. Again, something that I just think would go a long way for the community. One of the biggest things I think that's missing in Rivals and really Hut Champs is just cosmetics. Like if I get to Division 1, I want people to know it, you know, or whatever division in, whether that's a banner in your arena or maybe a patch on all of your players' jerseys, like some sort of in-game flex to let people know that you are a very good player, or even just to let them know what division you're in, because I think far too often we have no idea and you end up getting matched with someone that's far better than you because the matchmaking is just kind of scuffed, and again, it'll expand to find you an opponent, and if you're in Division 2, you're going to match Division 1 guys because they've been searching for so long. Another thing would be if you ever got within the top 100, again, give us something that can notify, like, this is an amazing player, just more rewards, and again, I think that's more for the high-end competitive community, but without the Gaming World Championship, the higher-end community still needs something to compete and play the game for, so again, that would tailor more to the high-end players. Since wins matter more, get rid of overtime and the shootout. In all honesty, make a new mode where we can just play shootouts or overtime. Very quick paced games. Again, that's probably an idea for another video when it comes to new modes that you can put in. But I think a big complaint of mine and a lot of the communities is that you grind and you're playing against an opponent and you're playing 5-on-5, you're playing normal hockey, and then it goes to overtime and it's like whoever gets the puck first just spins around in the corner and fires out a glitch goal or just waits for a breakaway, things like that. And you go to a shootout, it's even worse. Allow us to play those modes because I think a shootout mode is very fun, and it blows my mind there isn't one in HUT because it would allow us a very fast-paced game that we could just get in, get out, and offer HUT rewards. So I think in Rivals, let us play normally and continuous overtime. Again, I'd love to know your thoughts and feedback on that. Now, I talked about this in my HUT wish list video, but man, if you're playing Rivals based on the division that you're in and you do one of these crazy objectives, whether it's like the 100 goals with a defenseman, for example, and you score a goal with a defenseman, you're in Division 1, make that worth 7.5 goals, something along those lines. Make it mean more depending on the division you're in, so that we can earn the content the way that we want to play the game. I think one thing that this game just does not offer is rewards based on players being able to play the game they want. Even if you play squad battles or offline rewards and you just play offline, you don't play online, you've got to sit there with a team that you built, put them on the bench, put whatever cards you need to get objectives done, and then just do the same thing over and over and over again on rookie squad battles. That's a mess. Allow us to play the game we want and earn XP or whatever the objectives are, especially in Rivals. Take the division you're in, add a multiplier to it, and allow us to be able to collect those objectives with those cards in our lineup, promoting us to actually use the content that you are producing. That's, again, one of the biggest issues that I have with the content structure currently. Lastly, this can't get fixed, but NHL suffers from a connectivity issue that no other sports game has, and that is because of how fast-paced this game is played, how insane the mechanics are when you think about controller inputs in the sports video games that are available to us. Hockey is the most complicated and the most amount of inputs that you're doing in the fastest amount of time. I have been someone that plays on 25 ping against players that are in Quebec that have 2. I feel that. I understand what the frustration that a lot of people feel when they match up against Quebec players, especially if you're in Southern Ontario, because you're at a big, significant connection difference. So 20 ping for someone that connects together, so 2 Southern Ontario players, let's say, you match on the Quebec server, you're both getting 20 to 25 ping, that's fine. That's not high at all. That's very good, in all honesty. The problem is the 20 ping difference. That is where you will notice that passes are snappier, they can make inputs faster, and it offers a big issue when you play online, and there's really no way to fix that, I don't think, unless they add more servers. They use Amazon AWS, so you'd have to look at the map. You can actually see where those servers are located, and they do add in a few every year, but it's always going to be a major issue, especially in the places that connect to Quebec specifically. So like, I'm thinking like New York area as well as Toronto area. Big issue there, and I don't know how they address that. I mean, I do, but they never will. Like peer-to-peer, for example, I mean, you go back to what it was like in Versus, and yes, if someone had really bad internet, you basically take the average of your 2 internets, right? But you're both on it, at least. It's not one person getting significant advantage and the other one not, but I doubt we ever go back to that, so there's really no fix for that connectivity issue. I've been someone that's gotten to play when I go to District E in Washington. I'm basically right beside the Virginia server, and I've matched Quebec players when they match me on Virginia, and I'm on 2, and it's unbelievable. It's like you're playing a LAN game, you're offline, and your opponent's got to deal with it. So I don't know how they fix that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Rivals, but the last thing I want to touch on is HUT Champ. The qualification for HUT Champs is silly, because early on, you've got to grind out Rivals to get qualification for HUT Champs. Here's how I think this should work. This was, like, in my opinion, an arbitrary way for them to get you to force you to play more Rivals to actually get into HUT Champs. If you make top 3 divisions, so Division 1, 2, or 3, the second you get in, you have access to HUT Champs. Division 4, 5, and 6, you do not. And again, the reason why I think that is how it should be is HUT Champs is the one mode where you should only focus on the top 5% of the player base when it comes to online, because that is who the mode is for. The players that are just not the same skill level, it's just not going to be a good experience. If you are in Division 4 and below, you're probably never getting 10 wins in HUT Champs, and at that point, the rewards that you can can get with that are never going to be what you would get if you just played squad battles or rivals even. So again, I would be curious to hear what players that live in that division 4 to 6 range would be, but it would also strive for players in those lower tiers to get into hut champs, like to get into division 3. It focuses on winning more in terms of like giving us something to play for. Not that you need to be sweatier, but it's like every game should matter more. How often have you been in a rivals game that you're just trying to complete to get your rivals points for the week, not because you actually want to play and, you know, exceed your expectations? So let me know what you think in the comments section down below and what you guys would do for rivals. Curious to hear it. Have a good one.